OK, let's look forward to Week 6, shall we? The matchup of the week, the Detroit Lions versus the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, we've got two teams here that actually ahead of the season, I think that there were sort of differing opinions ahead of the season between these two teams. And I feel like the Detroit Lions, maybe the love has gone slightly off them, maybe. The Dallas Cowboys, they managed to get that sort of last gasp victory the other day against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are we looking at two Super Bowl contenders here, Brian?
We're looking at a very, very good Detroit Lions team. I mean, last week we were on this program, and I had Detroit as the number one team in the NFL. Kansas City looks really, really strong again, but I think most people believe Detroit is a at least top 5 team in this league. Cowboys are more trying to stay in the top 10, right? I mean, they have the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. They have one of the highest paid receivers. You have Jerry Jones, you have Mike McCarthy, you have Micah Parsons, who was hurt last week. They're barely winning games, but they are 3-2, and they actually have, for the Cowboys, they have a little momentum right now. This is an incredible matchup on paper, and this should be the best game of the week. Detroit is trying to get the Super Bowl. Detroit's trying to win the Super Bowl. They
win their first Super Bowl as well.
They need every win. Every game truly matters for this team. They should win this game. Dallas, I will say the same exact thing. They are trying to get the Super Bowl. They're trying to win the Super Bowl. Every game matters. The Cowboys cannot afford to be 3-3. Detroit cannot afford to fall back in their division when you have the Minnesota Vikings, right? That's a huge deal. If you're Detroit and you're going to win the Super Bowl, you need home field advantage. You need to have a bye, all those things. Jared Goff versus Dak Prescott, offense versus defense, that coaches, Mike McCarthy versus Dan Campbell, grit versus whatever Mike McCarthy is. This is a really great matchup. You could pick this one either way.
Do you think that we should be considering the Dallas Cowboys as Super Bowl contenders? And I'll tell you why I ask that. I ask that because this is really all or nothing for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
It feels like this season. It feels like everything's going to change if they really don't get either to the big game or potentially a championship. Are we just assuming that that's going to happen, that the Cowboys are just going to be blown up at the end of the season?
I have felt that way the entire season. And my problem has always been that 99% of owners would have fired Mike McCarthy after last season. And they took their time. And, they had to go have a think about it, kind of like Manchester United with Eric Ten Hag, right? And so when you bring that coach, when you bring that manager back...
Is it dead man walking then?
And the entire world knows that you weren't settled on him, that you weren't certain, that you looked around, and then you still bring him back. Number one, you come back into the new season with endless questions and scrutiny, which the Cowboys always have because they used to be America's team. Detroit is now. But number two, the second it starts to go south, the second you're 2-3, you're 3-3, or like whatever it is, everyone is waiting for you to fire your head coach. They're not going to do it midseason. They have to absolutely tank. Are the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl contenders? Yes, they are because they have enough talent. The real question is, are they going to win the Super Bowl? Nothing that I've seen thus far, nothing tells me the Dallas Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl this year. And if they're not going to do that, you should have done what you did last offseason, didn't do it last offseason, and you should have fired your head coach, Mike McCarthy.
Where do you think they'll end up then this season?
I feel like they're going to do what they always do in this era. They're going to pick up double-digit wins. Like they've had 12 and 12 and 12. Yeah. I don't think they win 12 games this year, but they'll win 11. They'll win 10. They'll win just enough to make the playoffs. They're going to fall short, and we're going to be sitting on this program on talkSPORT in the offseason talking about the new Dallas Cowboys head coach. I will not be shocked if that happens, and I feel like we've been building for this for years.
It's kind of boring in a way, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because I agree with you completely. It feels like the last few years it's been double digits, kind of impressive, at points in the regular season, and then you just know what's going to happen in probably the first week of the playoffs.